The Whittle Me This popper. Go to a local tree and find a branch that's just under an inch thick. Go ahead and cut this section off right as it touches the rest of the tree, making sure you get a good straight area of the desired width. This will help eliminate waste. Now pull that branch free from the tree and then cut all the outstretching branches off the stick, giving a nice kind of dowel shaped stick. Then on one of the ends, go ahead and cut it off straight with a hacksaw. Once it's cut off straight, measure an inch area from the end with your pocket knife. Now go ahead and start making a flat area. It should be about an inch in length. Try not to dig into the wood. Just kind of give it a nice flat spot just by stripping the bark off. Not really digging into the wood at this point. Now on the other side, cut down at about a 45-degree angle. This will help create that tapered popper head look. Start rounding the corners a bit. You should be left with a kind of rectangular little butt at the end of the stick. Make sure that both sides line up with the bark stripped. You should have an equal area on both sides that show light wood. Now, go to each side and cut down at a 45-degree angle, just like we did to the top. This again will help contribute to the tapering popper head look. Go ahead and go around and round the corners. And then go to the other side and do the same at the same angle. A square shape should start to form at the butt of your popper. Now, go up a little bit and just start stripping the bark off, not worrying about following the taper of the head or anything. Then, with a hacksaw, cut out that light wood area. Try to keep a straight face. Then lay your hacksaw horizontal and try not to cut your fingers like I did, but with the majority of the popper facing up, with the incline down, start rubbing the popper up and down the blade, creating a nice indent on the bottom of the head. This will help it sit on the hook right. It may help to go to one end and make an indentation first, and then start going blade from one end to the blade to the other. After a while, you should get an indent that's just under halfway through the popper. Now go ahead and spray that popper head with clear coat enamel. This will waterproof the popper and keep the wood from eroding. Now, go to a Montana Fly Company hook size 2, 4x long, and mash the barb down. Start the hook in your vise, and with any kind of thick thread, start making a thread area. Cut off the tag end, and then make a thread area from the eye to the point. This will help stick the popper head to the hook. Now put some super glue on those thread wraps. With your popper head, slide that over with the little end facing the butt of the hook. Push it down around the hook so it goes around the whole shank. The face should be right up next to the eye. Now, invert your vise and put a lot of super glue on here. Don't worry about access, we'll deal with that later. Don't worry about pushing it down or making it even. Just really lay it on there, making sure it fits all the cracks. Now, set it to dry. Once it's dry, it should kind of have filled in the indentation that we made with the saw. With a razor blade, go ahead and cut all the excess flush with the wood head. Now, Anita's outdoor paint is what we will use to color the popper. You can use any color. Here, it's just brown. Pour a little paint into an empty hook container and pick some paint up with your paintbrush. And start making a nice coat, even coat, around the popper head. Don't be afraid to really glob it on there. Then, go ahead and paint the butt of the head and the face of the head. You can put excess paint on, just make sure you spread it out. Put at least 2 coats and let it dry, and it should look like this. Next, go to the same kind of paint, here just in orange, but you can use other conflicting colors. And with your paintbrush again, go ahead and make a pattern. Here, I'm just going to paint the underside and go up a little bit onto the side to create a nice kind of little belly to the popper and kind of a hot spot for the fish to look at. Then I'm also going to paint the face orange. Don't worry about hitting the hook eye or not. We'll poke a hole in it later with a bodkin. And then, I like to just kind of color a little bit behind the face too. Then after a couple more coats, you let it dry, it should look like this. Now go ahead, once the paint is dry, go ahead and again, spray it with enamel. This will help keep the paint resistant to water and even increase the durability of the fly. Make sure you're making nice even sprays around it so it doesn't glob up. Load a bobbin with Vivis and A-Dot. Here, brown. Set the popper once the enamel's dried in your vise and start your thread right behind the head. Try not to go past the barb with your thread, then cut the tag end free. Go to some marabou, here in burnt orange, and take off a nice little fluffy fiber. Then go ahead and strip off all the crappy fibers, and grab it by the butt. This will be the tail. Measure it to about 1.5 times the hook shank in length. Cut the stem off and tie that measurement right down behind the popper head where your thread lays. Then go ahead and grab a piece of saddle hackle, or schlappen. Strip all the fuzzies off and grab it by the tip. Go down until where the fibers start getting really long and cut that off square. Now with the shiny side facing up, tie in the tip right behind the popper and push it all the way to the marabou tail. Go to some golden brown eye stub. The color doesn't really matter, I just like it. Get an ample amount out. Now just take a little pinch and dub it on your thread. and wrap that right above the marabou tail. This will help splay the rubber legs out. Go to some flutter legs and take 2 sections, each including 2 rubber legs free from the little, I don't know what you call it, little packet. Then take 1 section of 2 rubber legs, fold it over the thread, and tie it on the far side of the hook. You should be left with 4 legs on that side. Then do the same with the other pair, only this time on the near side. Once those are secure, go ahead and take the rest of your dubbing clump and dub it on your thread. Then go ahead and advance your thread with the dubbing on it right to behind the eye, wrapping through the rubber legs and then a little bit in front of them. Once your thread is behind the popper head, go ahead and get your rubber legs out of the way and take the hackle. Start making open spiral wraps through the little body, making sure not to trap any of the rubber legs. It is a little time consuming because those rubber legs really like to jump around and get caught in your fingers and the hackle. You should be able to take about 5 or 6 wraps of hackle before you get to behind the popper head. Once you reach the popper head, go ahead and tie the hackle off with your thread and cut the rest off. Go ahead and take a couple more wraps of thread to really secure the stem. Then go ahead and whip finish your thread. A larger size whip finish may come in handy. This is just a standard. Then go ahead and cut your thread off. Go ahead and separate each rubber leg and hold them up over the fly. Then kind of pull them over the popper head, over the eye, and cut them to that length. This will result in even legs. Now grab 2 medium-sized doll eyes and some super glue. Place the dot in the middle on either side of the head, right behind the face. Then press an eye on each dot. And that's it. In order to fish, you may need to pinch a little hole through the eye. But that's it. That's the fly.